Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you've been working incredibly hard, saving every spare cent you can, but still feeling like your financial wheels are just spinning in the mud, trust me, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're unpacking a concept that's absolutely fundamental to building long-term wealth, the $100,000 escape velocity. And listen, this isn't just about abstract, boring numbers. This is about the very real mathematical wall that's standing right between you and serious financial momentum. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a pretty blunt reality check from the legendary investor Charlie Munger. He famously and very accurately stated, "The first $100,000 is a bitch." And you know what? Our sources make it crystal clear. He absolutely wasn't kidding. If you're in that phase of life right now where you're trying to piece together that initial six-figure net worth and it feels agonizingly difficult, well, consider this your ultimate validation. It's actually supposed to be hard. Munger knew it, and the math totally proves it. It's an unvarnished reality check, but it perfectly sets the stage for everything we're going to explore today.
Because here's the thing. If you feel like you're grinding day in and day out, putting in the long hours, totally sweating over your budget, but your net worth is barely moving an inch, you haven't done anything wrong. Actually, scratch that. You're probably doing everything exactly right. You've simply hit what our sources describe as the mathematical wall. It's this massive barrier that literally every single person building wealth has to crash through. It's an incredibly heavy lift purely because of the underlying mechanics of how early money works. It's like you're pushing a giant boulder up a ridiculously steep hill and gravity is just fighting you every single step of the way. Now, what's really interesting here is the exact breakdown of why that wall feels so impossibly tall. The data shows that a massive 72% of your first $100,000 relies strictly on your own exhausting labor, sweat, and discipline. Think about that for a second. Nearly 3/4 of that money isn't coming from some magical passive compounding interest, it's coming directly from your own back. Only 28% is actually coming from the money doing work for you. So yeah, no wonder it feels like such a grind. You are the one providing almost all of the fuel. But here is the absolute game changer. Hitting that specific $100,000 mark, it changes everything. It's what we call escape velocity. Think of it like a space rocket, right? It needs a tremendous amount of violent energy and fuel just to break free from Earth's gravity. Your finances need that exact same massive initial push. But once you finally break this specific barrier, the universe's math fundamentally shifts. It literally stops working against you and finally starts working for you. The heavy lifting begins to transfer away from your own physical labor and savings discipline and goes straight over to your money itself. To really wrap our heads around how this feels in everyday life, our source uses this fascinating micro model. I want you to picture that classic math riddle. You know, a single penny doubling every single day for 30 days. It sounds incredibly powerful in theory, right? But the reality of actually living through those first couple of weeks is what we call the boring penny phase. And it perfectly mirrors the hidden, quiet frustration of building that initial wealth. And this brilliantly illustrates the point. You start on day one with a single penny. You double it again. But by day 10, after 10 full days of this compounding process, you've only got about $5. It is agonizingly slow. It's painfully boring. It feels like absolutely nothing is happening despite all this daily effort. Well, that $5 on day 10 represents your financial life before you hit six figures. It's that slow, painful grind. But reaching $100,000 is the exact equivalent of hitting day 20 of that penny challenge. This is the precise moment where the math stops creeping horizontally and just goes completely vertical. So what does this all mean? Well, this highlights the ultimate paradigm shift we're talking about. You transition from money from labor, which is that painfully slow climb where your own sweat equity is driving the vehicle, over to money from money. Breaking that $100,000 mark is the exact breakthrough moment where your money finally starts making more money than your actual physical labor ever could. The investment growth completely overtakes the sweat equity. The engine of compounding interest finally, genuinely roars to life. Let's move on and see how this builds in a real-world scenario. Let's step away from the pennies for a second and look at something called the 8-4-3 rule. Our source lays out the math like this. Imagine you're diligently saving $10,000 a year, and you're getting a standard, historical 10% return on those investments. That's a really solid, disciplined approach, right? Now, based on that exact scenario, saving 10 grand a year at 10%, I've got a pretty provocative question for you. Why is it that the next $100,000 you earn will take you exactly half the time it took to earn the first? Seriously, think about the immense effort it took to get the first one. Why on earth would the second one be so much faster if you haven't even changed your savings rate? So the crucial point is the jaw-dropping timeline compression of the 8-4-3 rule. Remember that $10,000 a year at 10%? Well, it takes 8 long, grueling years to reach your first 100 grand. But to get your second 100,000, it only takes 4 years, exactly half the time. And to get the third 100,000, it drops down to just 3 years. The timeline compresses so rapidly as your wealth accelerates. That 28% investment growth we talked about earlier, it is absolutely taking the wheel now. And that brings us to this incredibly powerful quote from our source. Once compounding takes the wheel, it creates a vicious cycle of wealth that is almost impossible to stop. Think about that phrase for a second, vicious cycle. We usually use it to describe bad habits, right? Downward spirals. But here, the math flips it into this massive positive force. It's unstoppable momentum. Your money is generating returns, those returns get added to your balance, and then those returns start generating their own returns. The mathematical wall is entirely in your rearview mirror at this point. Okay, so we understand the math, we understand the timeline, and we definitely understand the momentum. But how do we actually get there? Let's shift our focus to the practical, actionable steps you need to take to achieve this escape velocity as quickly as humanly possible. Because let's be real, sitting around and waiting for 8 years is tough. We need to actively break that wall. Our source provides some urgent, highly tactical advice on exactly how to do this. First, you have to make the hard sacrifices right now to get to that $100,000 wall as fast as possible. That means living strictly within your means. But here is the absolutely critical part. You have to focus on growing your income. As the source notes, you literally cannot just cut your way to wealth, especially when inflation is skyrocketing. There's a hard limit to how many expenses you can trim, but there's absolutely no mathematical cap on your earning potential. Growing your income is the hammer you need to shatter that wall. As we wrap up this explainer, our source leaves us with a very simple, very grounding anchor thought. Trust the math, trust the process. It's a fantastic reminder that even when you're stuck in that boring penny phase, even when the daily grind feels totally insurmountable, the underlying mechanics of wealth building haven't changed. The math is entirely impartial. It doesn't care if you're tired. But if you stick to the process, the math guarantees that the curve will eventually go vertical. And that brings us to the end of our explainer, with one final big thought to leave you with. Are you ready to make this sacrifice today to trigger your own vicious cycle of wealth tomorrow? The first $100,000 is undeniably a wall. It is a grind built on labor, sweat, and savings. But the moment you achieve escape velocity, the universe shifts in your favor. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this fascinating data, and I really hope this gives you the clarity to keep pushing until your money starts working harder than you do.